What would you say if a cop started asking friendly questions and every answer you gave was building the case against you? That happens every single day, and most drivers don't even see it coming. You can talk your way from a warning into handcuffs in under 2 minutes. Hit subscribe right now because what I'm about to show you could save you from charges you never should have faced. And tap like so you can find this video fast when you or someone you love needs it most. Here's what you're about to learn. The exact sentence that stops you from filling in the blanks for the officer. The question that tells you if the stop is still legal or if you should already be leaving. The line that shuts down consent to searches without being rude. And the calm response that keeps your mouth from doing what panic always does. I've analyzed over 200 body cam videos and the pattern is always the same. People don't get trapped because they look guilty. They get trapped because they talk too much. Here's the reality. Most charges don't start with a big dramatic confession. They start with little words. Where are you headed? Have you had anything to drink? Whose bag is that? Why are you nervous? One answer leads to another. Then your story shifts a little. Then the officer writes down the difference. Then that difference becomes probable cause, which just means a legal reason to dig deeper. That's why this matters so much for you. You think being open will make the stop end faster. You think if you explain enough, the officer will see you're a good person. But traffic stops and street contacts are not therapy. They are evidence hunts. Former police officers have confirmed this works both ways. The officer is trained to listen for gaps, changes, and nervous filler. You're not being graded on politeness alone. You're being measured for useful information. Most people have no idea that even innocent answers can sound suspicious once they get repeated in a report. If you say you just came from your friend's house, then later say you were at a bar near his house, that can get twisted into a lie. If you say you had 1 beer, then a breath test says more. Now you sound dishonest before the case even begins. Your words become the rope. Then you help pull it tight. Let me show you exactly where most drivers mess this up. The officer walks up relaxed. He sounds casual. He asks if you know why he stopped you. Then he asks where you're going, then where you're coming from, then whether there's anything illegal in the car. You answer because it feels weird not to. You start explaining, you add details nobody asked for. You try to sound helpful. And while you're doing that, you're creating a timeline the officer can test. Against your body language, your passengers, your phone, your receipts, and whatever else turns up next. Defense attorneys use this exact line in court because they know the danger starts early. The biggest mistake you make is thinking silence makes you look guilty. No, rambling makes you easier to charge. Listen closely because this is critical. Your goal is not to win the officer over with a long story. Your goal is to give your license, follow lawful orders, and stop donating evidence with your own mouth. The first thing you need is a sentence that stops the interview before it grows legs. Here's exactly what you say. Officer, I'm going to remain silent and I'd like a lawyer if you're questioning me. Word for word. Memorize that line. This works because it does 2 jobs at once. First, it tells the officer you're using your right to stay quiet. Second, it tells the officer you want a lawyer if this is turning into questioning about a crime. In plain English, you are putting up a wall, you are not arguing, you are not refusing lawful orders. You are refusing to help build the case. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings. The big case people talk about here is Miranda v. Arizona. In simple English, that case says when police question you while you're in custody, you have rights, including the right to stay silent and ask for a lawyer. Another important case is Salinas versus Texas. In plain English, that case showed that just sitting there silent can get messy if you never clearly say you're using your right. That's why your words matter. You don't just stare, you say it clearly. Bad way. Most drivers say, I only had 2 drinks, or I'm not doing anything wrong. Then the officer keeps digging and now your own words are the first bricks in the case. Good way. Smart drivers say, Officer, I'm going to remain silent and I'd like a lawyer if you're questioning me. Then the officer loses the free interview and has to work without your help. Watch what happens when you don't use this. The officer asks one soft question. You answer. Then comes another. You try to fix the first answer. Then your second answer sounds different. Now it looks like you're changing your story. I've analyzed over 200 body cam videos, and that tiny shift happens all the time. Innocent people do it because stress crushes memory. Guilty people do it because they're trying to hide facts. The officer writes both down the same way. Here's the reality. Your mouth does not know the difference between stress and danger. It just wants relief. So it talks. Now watch what happens when you do use it. The whole tone changes. The officer may still ask for your ID, registration, or to step out. You still comply with lawful commands. But the fishing trip gets harder. No more guessing games. No more filling dead air. Legal experts agree this is your strongest protection because you cannot talk yourself into charges if you stop giving the state extra material. This is 100% legal. You are not being rude. You are using a right people died to protect. Have you ever felt that pressure to explain yourself fast just to make things less awkward? Drop a comment below, because once you see this pattern, you'll never unsee it. The second tactic is how you stop a normal stop from turning into a never-ending investigation. You look at the officer and say this: "Officer, am I being detained or am I free to leave?" Those exact words. Keep your voice calm, keep it short. Say nothing extra. This line matters because traffic stops are supposed to be limited. The officer can deal with the reason for the stop, check your documents, and handle safety issues. But the stop cannot stretch forever just because the officer wants more chances to find something. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings. The case you need to know is Rodriguez versus United States. In plain English, that case says police can't drag out a traffic stop longer than needed to investigate other stuff. Another case is Berkmer versus McCarty. In plain English, that case explains traffic stops are serious but limited. That matters for you because officers often use delay as pressure. The longer you sit there, the more you want to talk, agree, and cooperate your way out. Here's the trick they don't want you knowing. That one question forces a moment of truth. If you are free to leave, the stop should end. If you are being detained, the officer is owning that choice. Either way, you get clarity, and clarity protects you. Defense attorneys use this exact line in court because it helps show if police kept legal limits. Bad way. Most drivers say, "Are we done here?" or "What's taking so long?" Then the officer gets defensive and keeps control of the whole pace. Good way. Smart drivers say, "Officer, am I being detained or am I free to leave?" Then the stop gets defined, and the officer has to make the legal status clear. Let me show you exactly why this is powerful. If you just keep chatting, the officer gets extra minutes. Extra minutes mean extra questions. Extra questions mean more chances for you to slip or contradict yourself. If you ask the right line, you are not challenging the badge. You are asking for your status. That is clean. That is smart. That is easy for a judge to understand later. And yes, the officer may still say you're detained. Fine. Now you know. Do not argue the roadside case. You do not lecture about the Constitution. You do not get sarcastic. You simply know the game has changed. Former police officers have confirmed this works because it removes confusion and shows you know the rules. Watch what happens when someone asks this early. The officer often wraps up faster. This is legal, and it can save you from the endless roadside conversation that turns small issues into big ones. The third tactic is the line that kills the search request. "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." This line is huge because consent is the shortcut. If you give consent, you hand away your strongest shield. The big case here is Schneckloth versus Bustamante. Consent searches are valid even if you weren't told you could refuse. That is why your line has to be clear. "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." Refusing consent does not magically stop every search, but it protects your rights later in court. The fourth tactic. "I'm not answering questions without a lawyer, and I'm only providing required documents." Defense attorneys use this line because it draws a line between lawful compliance and self-incrimination. Miranda, Rodriguez, and Schneckloth are the cases that fit your tactics like keys fit locks. Right way, give license, registration, and repeat. I'm not answering questions without a lawyer. One version creates leads, the other version closes doors. Stay safe out there and hit subscribe. GitHub.